What if Earth suddenly stopped spinning right now? It sounds like a sci-fi question, but it reveals some of the most important physics shaping your everyday life. Because even when you feel completely still, you are riding a rotating planet at incredible speed and never noticing it. At the equator, Earth spins fast enough to carry you sideways at more than 1600 kilometers per hour. We do not feel that speed because everything around us shares it. The ground, the air, the oceans, the buildings, and your body all move together as one giant coordinated system. Now remove the rotation instantly. The planet stops, but inertia does not. Everything on the surface keeps moving at the speed it had one moment before. That means people, cars, aircraft, and loose structures would keep surging eastward while the ground beneath them suddenly became still. Near the equator, that sideways speed is so extreme that the first seconds would be unsurvivable for most exposed environments. You wouldn't simply stumble, the world around you would behave like it had been hit by a horizontal blast carrying the stored motion of an entire spinning planet. And the atmosphere would not politely stop either. The air would keep moving, now scraping over the stationary surface at tremendous speed. The result would be global windstorms beyond ordinary hurricanes, with pressure fronts, debris clouds, and violent atmospheric shear tearing across continents. The oceans would be just as dangerous. Water carries momentum too, so if the crust stopped but the seas kept moving, coastlines would be hit by massive surges sweeping inland. Entire coastal regions could be erased under continent-scale flooding and impact-driven waves. Location would matter. At the poles, the sideways speed from rotation is much lower than at the equator, so the initial launch effect would be weaker. That does not make polar regions safe, but it does mean the equator would absorb the most extreme first blow from a sudden stop. Over longer timescales, the planet itself would start adjusting. Earth bulges slightly at the equator because it spins. Removes that spin, and the world would slowly try to become more spherical, triggering crustal stress, major earthquakes, and long-term geological rearrangement. Then there's the day-night cycle. Our 24-hour rhythm exists because Earth rotates once relative to the Sun. If Earth stopped spinning but kept orbiting, sunrise and sunset would no longer arrive every day. One side of the planet would face months of daylight, while the other would endure months of darkness. That would transform climate and biology. Plants, animals, agriculture, and weather patterns evolved for a rotating world with predictable daily cycles. Stretch one day into a year, and entire ecosystems would face heat stress, freezing darkness, and disrupted survival rhythms on a planetary scale. There is also a common myth here. If Earth stopped spinning, gravity would not suddenly disappear. You would not drift off into space because the planet quit turning. Gravity comes from Earth's mass, and rotation only changes your effective weight slightly. So the real danger is not losing gravity. It is losing the shared motion that makes our world feel stable. Right now, the ground, oceans, and atmosphere all move together. The disaster begins when one layer stops and the others keep carrying their old momentum. Could this really happen? In any sudden realistic sense? No. Earth is slowing very gradually because of tidal interactions with the moon, but the change is tiny and measured over enormous stretches of time. The instant stop version is a thought experiment, not a forecast. And that is exactly why the question is so powerful. It turns invisible physics into something unforgettable. Inertia, angular momentum, atmospheric motion, and day-night cycles all become easier to understand when you imagine the one condition that normally keeps them hidden being ripped away. So if Earth stopped spinning, the planet would not quietly pause. Surface momentum would throw the world into immediate violence, the atmosphere and oceans would keep moving, and the length of day itself would be transformed. Earth's spin is one of those silent rules of reality that keeps ordinary life possible, and the fact that you never feel it is what makes it so extraordinary.
Subscribe Mystery Bites for weekly mind-blown science.